Hey, welcome back to another exciting week. This is start of a new week, a new exciting 5 days of magical learning. So I think we are still on the Greek philosopher account. We are going to talk about the practicing Stoic. So
Yeah, we
what you
we
got,
we
Chris?
we were in a rut of 101 essays and the practicing Stoic, and
So
apparently
the
I was in a
101 essay.
apparently not. I just kept rocking and rolling with this one and just kept fighting through it. So, but yeah, no, the book today is the book The Practicing Stoic, a philosophical user's manual by the author Ward Farnsworth. So this book actually wasn't really as much about the philosophy of Stoicism. It was more about like the practitioner's handbook of like, what does it really mean? Like, what is an externality? Like, what are the words? Like, it was kind of breaking down Stoicism a little bit
Hmm.
more than being more of like a Marcus Aurelius's Meditations or like Epictetus's Discourses. Where it was more like just like an actual philosophical discussion about life in general. This is more of like a practical how-to guide of like if we were going to take all those different writings of the Stoics and like try to break it down into what is happening here. Like that was what this book is really about.
I
And
see.
it was interesting. It was, I don't, for whatever weird reason, I don't know what it is about Stoicism in particular, but I don't know. There's something interesting to me about the philosophy. Like I don't love it, to be honest with you. Like I don't really agree with Stoicism, but I wanted to learn more about it. I don't know why I was like Stoic curious, like
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you will. So I think that's why I've kind of naturally explored that a few different times on this journey. And, it is what it is. I learned something, right? So this particular reflection title is Thanks for the Visit. And I'll explain what that means. I'll explain what that is. So I started this one off just saying, I think I'm finally starting to understand Stoicism a little bit, right? I don't know about you, but like when I first think of Stoicism or when I first thought of Stoicism before I've read anything or studied it or tried to explore it a little bit further myself, I always thought of those people that just like had no feelings basically, no matter what was going on around, they were just stone cold, like, very lifeless, no feelings. As a matter of fact, if you look up the definition of stoicism, like how it's defined just in our popular culture in our dictionary, it's the endurance of or sorry, the endurance of pain or hardship without the display of feelings and without complaint. So like when I hear that, I don't know about you, but that just sounds miserable. Like it just sounds like people that are just like going through shit all day long and they just have no feelings or
Yeah,
emotions
it
and they don't
reminds
show it.
me of eating frog for breakfast.
Exactly. Yeah, it does not there's nothing about
Remind
stoicism it
reminds
does.
me of, go and work in a sub mine until you die.
Pretty much, yeah. And,
I
and don't
mean,
show emotions about it. Like just suck it up and deal with life and premeditated adversity. Imagine yourself the worst thing happening to you so you can practice that thought and that feeling every single day before you ever go out there and actually happens to you and you know how to prepare yourself. It doesn't sound fun, is what it doesn't sound, is what it sounds like to me. And it doesn't sound like it's life well lived either, because like we're humans and we have emotions and it's not the emotions aren't bad. I've always had the feeling that just in pop culture and what we hear of stoicism, that is the kind of the vibe of it, is to be emotionless for the most part, right? The weird thing is I've explored stoicism further and further is I don't think that's what it's about at all actually anymore. And after reading, like Meditations and the Practicing Stoic and the Daily Stoic is the daily reflection book that I read every once in a while and write a reflection in the mornings off of, and the Socrates Express, learning about, premeditated adversity. And there's another book that dove into Stoicism as well that we'll talk about along the journey and that I've kind of explored. I think I'm finally starting to understand this philosophy a little bit more. And it isn't about denying emotions. It's actually about embracing emotions and recognizing them, right? So it's about feeling when you feel pain to say, I feel pain. Like, and okay, what do I want to do with that? It's more similar to the space between stimulus and response is your freedom to choose kind of a philosophy in general. And that space isn't about denying that emotions happen, right? And that space isn't about, changing outcomes afterwards. It's about that time in the middle when you can decide what you want to do with that emotion that you just got, right? It's about just recognizing emotions and then processing it and figuring out what you want to do with it. So that's really what I feel like stoicism, as the more I studied it and the more that I've learned from it, that it's about like if somebody knocked on your door and it was like an emotion and you open it up and you decide, okay, come on in or don't, but it's kind of your decision at that point in time. As I've been exploring this and thinking about this stuff, I've recently started to play a little game with myself whenever I feel like a certain wave of emotions. If I'm getting pissed or if I'm angry at work or if I'm tired of chasing Luca around and picking up after him and running after him all day long, or yelling at my wife to put clothes away or something like that. I was like, whenever I feel that emotion coming on, I try to pretend like there literally is somebody that knocks on a door when I open it up and there's a little monster waiting for me outside of it. And the monster that I keep seeing in my head is Sully from Monsters Inc. You ever see that movie, Monsters Inc., with like and Mike Wozniacki and you ever seen Monsters Inc.? Okay, so I keep just I don't know why that's the monster that I think of when I'm thinking of like anger at my door or whatever. And he's like in a nice soothing John Goodman voice, he's like, "Hey, just saw you're angry. Do you want me to come on in? We can figure it out." And I just say at that time I can decide whether or not, hey, yeah, come on in. Let's go fuck some shit up, or no, I think I'm good. Like I can just close the door. We'll see you later. Next time the anger comes. And it kind of helped. It worked. It was something that was kind of fun to think about whenever I got angry. I just think of John Goodman and Sully at my door and, asking me if he wants to rage or not. And I get to make that decision whether or not I want to go rage or not, and let him in. But either way, I'm acknowledging that emotion's there and deciding what I want to do with it, right? So I thought I wanted to take that a little bit further. I haven't really tried it yet with other emotions like love or pain or anger or whatever, beyond just the anger kind of emotion. That's what I feel like I've been using this the most. But I guess in theory, you could really apply this to anything like success or failure or anxiety or whatever it may be. You can pretend that it's a new little monster that's knocking at your door and you can decide what you want to do with it, right? Yeah. So that was the reflection from this book and just Stoicism in general of kind of how I'm starting to think about it, because it's not about denying emotions. Is that I feel like Stoicism is about embracing emotions, but deciding, what you want to do with them, meeting them at the front door of your life, and then deciding whether you want to welcome them into your home or not. So that's it. I'd love to get your thoughts. What do you think?
I think you're right. I mean, from your reflection, to me, it's about responding to thing that comes to you versus reacting. Because if a monster comes, if you react to the monster, then you are not choosing. You didn't have a choice. But if you chooses, then you're in control. Because
Yeah.
I really agree with the fact that you say it's like, between stimulus and response is a freedom to choose. So to me, if you tell me about Stoic how they use emotions, basically they use logic to put emotion into check. Because if
Exactly.
if somebody is trying to make you angry, right, and push the buttons, right, and normally if you are not a practicing Stoic, it's not to show that, hey, I can make Chris angry, right?
Yeah.
And if he doesn't show anger, that doesn't mean that he doesn't does. I mean, I think from the surface, and when you look at the definition of Stoic, you think they are, you know,
Emotionless.
taking shit just
Right. Yeah.
because, right? They're not taking shit. I think a lot of people will be mistaken that Stoic just take the shit just because they are
Right.
supposed to. For whatever belief they have, the same concept, same image. If you hadn't told me about the fact that between stimulus and response is freedom to choose, then it actually turned my view on Stoic based on that particular phase alone. Because I think Stoic isn't about taking the shit. It's about, okay, shit came. What am I gonna do with it? I get to choose.
Exactly.
And so I think having that lessons here is great because like I said, it goes back to many of the concept that we learned in previous episodes. We're talking about between stimulus and response is freedom to choose because we don't want to react to things that comes to us. When it comes to us, right, we need to take it and say, well, this is what it came to my door. This is what's given to me. How would I like to respond to it? That's the only thing I can control in life, and I don't want to give that away because
Right.
if that's the only thing I can control, and I'm going to show emotion just because you press the buttons to make me angry, you press a button to make me sad, right? That means you controlling me. I have no control over myself, and if I don't, right, then basically I have no freedom at all. And so to me, understanding what a practicing Stoic do it in the spirit of Stoic, right, Stoicism, then to me that makes sense. I think a lot of people mistakes what a Stoic does based on the definition alone, because I think
Yeah.
definition doesn't
Sounds awful.
It's like,
I
hey,
mean,
these people will take shit and they don't even,
yeah,
complain. To me, I think the definition of not complaining may threw me off to say, hey, this guy takes shit and doesn't, you know, complain. For
right.
me, it's like, well, I don't have to take shit. Shit comes to me, but I can divert that, I can reflect that, or I can dodge it, but I will complain because
Right.
hey, don't throw shit at me because I will throw it back. For me, that if you had told me that in the beginning, then I would look at the Stoic as a different way. But I think having the word that they don't complain without complaint, I think that I don't know why that should be in there.
When like whatever monster you imagine in your mind, that is reflective of that emotion that you feel
Hmm.
comes to your door, by all means, you can let it in. If you want to feel love, like, and you want to feel that love, like, let them in. Like, you know what I mean? And you want to embrace that moment and like and feel all the feels. Like, you don't have to deny. Like, you don't have to deny being angry either. You don't have to deny anything. Like, I mean, it's a if you don't want
Right.
to,
Yeah, I
but it's
think
your choice.
it's the without the display of feelings and complaint, right? Because to me, it's like I can display an anger, but I can control my response to my anger. Say I am angry inside, but I'm
Right.
not going to take a bat and swing at your face.
Right.
But
Right.
you were responding versus reacting, right? Reacting is like
Exactly.
whatever it just bounce back, right? And so to me, the definition may threw me off of the real concept of Stoic. You,
I
I mean,
agree.
to me, I think if you give me a definition alone without giving the context, I would always believe, people are supposed to be taking shit and because, it's whatever
Why? Yeah. What? I
whatever
mean,
belief, whatever, silly belief that you think, it's going to give you a benefit of whatever sort is to let people throw shit at you all the time.
100%.
But
Like,
if you told me about the real reason why they do it, it's more understandable and it gives us a lot of benefit because we don't want to lose the only control that we have. And think about it, if we can control how we respond to things, then the benefit that comes to us is going to be much more than we just reacting to external stimuli. Because if somebody throws shit at you, you throw shit back. Well, eventually everybody's going to get shitty.
exactly. This is like I'm just looking up more definitions. If you can see it on here, it says, being stoic is like just looking up what is a stoic person like. Being stoic is being calm and without any emotion. I don't think that's true.
No,
It
no,
doesn't.
it's not
It says,
without emotion. It's not
no,
without the
it's just
expectation.
the emotion.
No, I could be happy when you're trying to make me angry because you say, "Hey, True, you're an ugly dude. Hey, you're a short dude." I say, "Well, okay, thank you.
Right.
I like it. It's a compliment, right?" That is an emotion. It's an emotion of, hey, that's cool because that's what I thought too, right? That's still an emotion to me. To say without emotion, to me, that kind of threw me off of the definition because the emotion, the expected emotion, if I were to punch you in the face, I expect you to get mad
Right.
because if you punch me in the face, I could be happy because hey, I could get a lot of money from you.
Right.
I can say,
Right.
hey, I can just sue you for assault. I can be happy.
Right.
That's still an emotion, but it's opposite of what I expected. So
Right.
to me, if a stoic is to do that, then I'm all for stoics.
They're they're not emotionless people. Like, I mean, that's the point. Is like, I mean, like even right here it says the noun stoic is somebody who's not very emotional. It describes the adjective describes a person or action or thing that seems emotionless or almost blank. I could not disagree more with that. This is what I'm saying. In popular culture, the word stoicism, I think, is synonymous with somebody that has no emotions,
So
right?
who
And
wrote these things?
I
Who,
don't know. This is what I struggled with when I would study stoicism and when I would learn more about it and I would read,
because
and I'm like,
that would put me off.
we're still humans. We still have emotions. Like, I mean, it's not like you can deny that the monster walked to the
But
door.
to deny your emotion, it's like not using half of your gifts. I
I
mean,
agree. I mean, there's a reason why we have the emotions. Like, I mean, they're not. That's not. Their emotions aren't the enemy.
you're
The point.
suppressing it, right? To me, that isn't natural, isn't right. So for me, if I'm looking at a book and I would go and Google what is a Stoic, I would never have read this book. it would
I
put me
agree.
off because like
I,
I don't want to be emotionless.
to be fair, is it's not that I didn't necessarily learn it from this book. This has kind of been like just my burgeoning, like, understanding of Stoicism that caused the reflection. But you see it in the description. The foundational idea of Stoicism is that we appear to go through life reacting directly to events. The appearance is an illusion. We react to our judgments and our opinions, to those thoughts about things and not about the things themselves. Stoics seek to become more conscious of those judgments and find irrationality in them, and then choose them more carefully. Like, what
Right,
do I
and
want to do?
that sounds more like a Stoic definition.
Emotionless, and yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And like, it's when you look at it the way that we're talking about it, like, I don't mind Stoicism at all, because I think it's actually a really good practice of you know like, it's hard to recognize when you're having emotions, you know what I mean? Like, I think very, for most of us, when we have an emotion and immediately the reaction just immediately happens, right? And like, and
But
that's
the thing is, you don't have to not react to it. You can shorten it because if I make you angry, right, you can probably make me angry for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, a day, but not a whole lifetime. I've seen people hold a grudge for a whole lifetime, right?
yeah, no, that's so
And
sad.
so to me, that is burden on you,
I
not the
agree.
other person. The other person, hey, I didn't know I made you mad.
uh
I would go through life joyfully. I'm skipping through life like one happy, joyous life, and you're here like grudging me for something I did that even know. Burden on you, not the guy that did you wrong. So for me, it's stoic, right?
there's this saying, resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Like, revenge or whatever it may be, to your point, it's like when you're angry at somebody else for your entire life, it's like, hey, I'm going to drink this poison of anger all day long, but you're going to die.
But
But
that's the
no,
thing
it's
is, a lot of times,
stupid.
a lot of times, what we do is, when let's say we're mad at somebody, right? You self sabotage yourself
Yeah. I
to
mean, yeah,
to make the other person feel bad for some reason.
right.
And sometimes, that's the habit that we've been conditioned to follow. It sounds so silly. It's like, hey, when I'm mad at my wife, right, I forget to eat and I starve myself and, look like I'm I'm a homeless guy or whatever. I'm just punishing myself. You doesn't even know.
True. Yeah. She doesn't.
I've done that in the past and I've seen myself doing that
It's drink. It's
so
like drinking poison for yourself, and hoping the other person dies.
it's like
Um,
I'm suffering for however long that I'm mad at her.
you're the only one suffering too. I'm sure she doesn't give a shit at a certain point in time.
But
She's like,
that's what
"What's
I'm
this
saying
about,
is
man?"
once you practice the Stoic, you can check your emotion at the door and say, "Hey, Sully, thanks for visiting," or you can decide then. But if he came in, you can always ask him to leave. If you're mad at somebody, right, you can always shorten your pain.
Or your happiness too. Like, to be fair, like, so like my cousin, I'm teaching her tennis these days, and I have a rule that I give her, because I mean, this is something I've been working really hard on for the past few years in this journey as well, is to not worry about the outcomes, right, good or bad. So if you hit a great shot and you feel that rush of momentum, and you're gaining momentum, I'm like, I've been telling her, you get 5 seconds. It's good to feel good about that. Like, you hit a great shot. Tell your elephant, great job, that was impressive. Like, go like, man, elephant, like, that's great. I mean, I literally tell her this stuff. I'm like, man, tell your elephant, like, that was amazing. Like, be really impressed with yourself. But then 5 seconds later, forget it, and then remember why you're playing tennis in the first place and go do it. And then vice versa, same thing. I call it my
It's
five
it's
second
about
rule.
control. It's about controlling what you want because
Right.
the thing is you need to decide, right, what you want to do. Because if you're talking about Sully coming to your room, right, when he comes to your room, you can decide whether you let him in at the door or you let him in and ask him to leave because you still in control. You are telling him this is my decisions. But if you don't practice the Stoics, right, you letting emotion do whatever he do until he decides to leave, not
Exactly.
you.
Right.
And that's the lesson that I see that I'm learning today is that you have that control and you need to take the ownership of that and don't let go of it because if you do, then people will control you.
People, it can be circumstances, it could be anything. That, like, if you constantly get into the roller coaster of emotions, that's what, going back to the tennis example, like, it's such an emotional roller coaster in the course of a match. You can feel really great and feel like you're on this amazing upward trajectory, and then all of a sudden you come crashing back down, then find yourself 3 games later talking to yourself, telling you're the worst player ever. Like it's just a downward shit spiral. Like when you constantly ride the roller coaster
But
waves,
think about
like,
it, if
you're
you're not in control, you can't make good decisions, and
that's the point. Yeah.
that's you giving away good, smart actions to other people.
Exactly.
You just giving it away. You don't control anything because you can't control if Sully can knock on your door, and you don't control when he leaves, and that
Agreed.
to me is a problem. But the thing is, you say, well, this is my room. I can ask you to leave whenever I want. That's is the big lesson that I've got today from this reflection title. Thank you for that. I think it's a good reminder of the between stimulus and response, you have the freedom to choose.
Yeah.
And I
I love
think
it.
it's a domino effect, it's cascade of things. Because if you are in a bad mood, you're in an angry mood, you will not make good judgments. And whether or not you will want to go and beat somebody with a baseball bat or whatever,
Right.
I guarantee you it's not a good decisions. You're gonna
Agreed.
regret those decisions. And having your control of your freedom to choose allow you to optimize those opportunities and the decisions you make because you don't want to make decisions you regret.
I agree. This was a fun one for me personally. I really like this one, just like because it is I think it's the visualization for me of just seeing Monsters Inc. guy at my door and
Hmm.
it's easy for me to like remember that. It's like
It's a
moonwalking with
memory
dinosaurs a little
palace.
bit. Yeah,
Yes, of
exactly. Yeah,
course.
versus like Stoicism. The idea of Stoicism isn't that like in pop culture, right? The idea of Stoicism, when I see the visualization that I had in my head of Stoicism was just an emotionless dead person, like I mean, and that's not what it is. So I'm glad that this I'm glad that this
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to uncover the layers of, incorrectness of what Stoicism is, because
to my
otherwise, to me, I don't know about Stoic until we talk about today. But
right.
I'm looking up on Google. Based on what I'm reading Google, I would not touch this
I
Stoic,
know it
right?
sounds
But incorrectness, right? You found the true meaning of it is, and I said, well, I think people got it wrong on the surface. Whoever wrote the definitions probably translate wrong or did not read the book and they just translate.
yeah,
See what a Stoic is.
it's really understanding yourself, right? Like because it's more of an understanding issue than it is a
But that's the
right.
thing I see a lot of people do is they don't take the time to investigate and form their own opinion. They just take somebody else's opinion and pass it on.
Right.
Right?
100% all the time. Why did that just pop up?
If somebody wants to contact you,
I know, but why did it pop up?
do you have push notifications?
No, that's weird. Anyway, all right. Any final thoughts?
Say hi to Sully.
Well, I will say I need other monsters in my head to remember other emotions. So after this year of magical learning and
But
reflection
I
with you,
think
I usually feel satisfied. So if there's a satisfied emotion, like a little monster knocking on the door, I'll be like, yeah, come on in. Let's go hang out for a while before I go to bed.
Sully can represent all emotions.
I mean, he can, but like I really want Sully to be like my anger emotion, and then I want to have like another
Well,
monster for
go
my
back and watch Monster Inc. or watch
a while.
Inside Out.
Right.
Watch Inside Out.
I would love it to be able to like for me to go, oh yeah, Sully's my anger monster, like at the door when I see him, or like this is my love monster, or my my happiness monster, my whatever. Anyway, I'll figure it out in the future. I'll keep playing around with it. But yeah, I appreciate you tuning in. The question we can leave with you all is, what creative ways do you deploy to manage your own emotions? So
just read the Stoics.
right, yeah, just read Stoic.
Stoics, or read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Right. They're saying the same thing. I mean, it's really all about just understanding your emotions and embracing them and then deciding what you want to do with it. Like, and that's the best thing you can do. So thanks for joining in, and we will see you all tomorrow for book 158.
Yeah, see you.